Armored Core 6 is a game about skill, so much so that you can replay any mission to get rated on how well you beat it. The S rank is the highest grade, and if you haven't noticed it yet, it's complete bullshit. But regardless, I tried beating these missions normally and realized the game was getting a little too fun. So let's fix that. In today's Armored Core Challenge run, we will be S ranking all 36 missions of the Liberator of Rubicon ending with only melee weapons. If you're looking to learn how to S rank or just want to see a poor man suffer, then tag along. And before you ask, yes, I am playing with an office keyboard and a subpar mouse. So subscribe, because suffering builds character, and we're about to do some character development. I'll be sorting the levels by difficulty, starting from easy for the missions that only required minimal effort or a shorter amount of time to beat, difficult for the missions that required repetition, a change of strategies, and maybe even hours of practice to beat, and finally, impossible for the missions that are just straight up unbeatable. This video can serve as a tutorial as well as entertainment, so make sure you check the video's chapters if you seek help beating this challenge or to just S-rank the game normally. The easy missions will be sorted chronologically, and above that will be sorted by difficulty. I prepared this challenge by giving myself the best starting point possible. Melee weapons have higher reward for bigger risks and smaller opportunities, so my priorities were to make sure that I secured a chance to hit while also making that hit count. But some consideration also goes towards the requirements of an S rank. This is why, despite the idea that melee gameplay goes with tanking, I will be building a speed-focused mech. So let's go over my AC build. The legs that I used switched between the 06042 Mind Beta and the Nachtreiher 42E. These two are mostly down to personal preference. I'm most comfortable doing dodges that incorporate the one-time speed increase by jump speed. The difference between these two is only the distance of their jump and their overall weight, but they're conceptually the same. The arms are not up for debate, with the AAJ-123 Basho having 158 melee specialization. Do I know what this stat does? Absolutely not, but I'm pretty sure the other arm-specific stats don't help if you're only using melee weapons. For the head, I used the VP44D, simply because it had the highest attitude stability. I didn't change this for the entire run as it didn't quite interfere with anything. My core piece was mostly the Nachtreiher 40E, mostly because it's light, but also because it has one of the higher generator supply adjustments, which I think plays a big role in energy recharge. I will be doing a lot of energy-intensive actions, from frequent assault boosting to lunging melee attacks, which make use of your booster. The generator is where it starts to get very complicated. It's like all of these parts exponentially increase the layers of complicatedness. I'll leave a video for an in-depth breakdown of generators in the description if you're doing a different build, but I basically switched between the VE20C, VP20C, VP20D, and the DFGN08 Sanpai. I only switched when I started to feel like something was off or when I needed to adjust for the higher E and load melee weapons. Like I said, the specifics are complicated, and I don't understand them, so go check out Kreit's video on generators for a very good explanation. Boosters are literally rocket science, so here's another video on that. But all that I used were the Gills, which I don't recommend, the Bretzel, and the BSD-G2 P06 SPD. I also went and did all of the arena missions until the top 3. With the OST chips, I bought Weapons Bay, Kick, all upgrades of melee damage, direct hit damage, scanning speed, and pulse armor, which I forgot to use for most of the missions. This part also served as practice, and I only used melee weapons here. For the weapons, I tested every single one to see how their movesets work, as well as their recharge speeds and their damage. The variations of my weapons only occur for some of the harder missions, and for those I jumped between 4 weapons: the pile bunker, chainsaw, stun baton, and the butt. The stun baton and the plasma sword are interchangeable, depending on what you're fighting. The plasma sword is amazing for ACS buildup, while the stun baton, funnily enough, actually stuns enemies who are already knocked down. The pile bunker and the chainsaw are also interchangeable for their role of high direct hit damage to knock down enemies, but I always found the pile bunker more useful because its one-off damage window and cooldown speed actually makes it very good outside of direct hits. The normal missions did require a different playstyle to keep up with the general speed and disregard for precision. For these missions, I decided on the laser lance. This is to make punishing openings easier because it closes the range for me. This is used alongside the moonlight, which is kind of like a weaker version of the plasma sword that doesn't require energy consumption, but its ability with its range is undoubtedly useful. And of course, challenge runs are not complete without a tailor-made paint job and theme. I always struggle to make a cool theme without spending ages on it. At first I wanted to do Kagurabachi from the manga Kagurabachi, but having to look at the black AC for the entire game isn't all that fun. So I was lost for a while until I looked around and saw the light of foliar incision I made when I cosplayed Alhaitham, which inspired me to make this cool looking foliar incision AC. I really like the paint in this one. We'll begin the path of pain with the easy tier. Most of the missions in this segment are straightforward in their goals, or don't have a high ceiling to reach. I'll be going over all the missions by talking about their objectives, how I did it, and what mistakes I made on the way. We'll begin with the Destroy Artillery Installations mission. And yes, the first mission does not belong in the easy tier. I'll leave you to guess where it goes. Anyways, as expected of easy tier missions, this one is very straightforward. To secure the S rank, just make sure that you keep on utilizing your assault boost every time that it's ready. It seems you don't particularly need to kill many enemies, but I recommend that if your weapon is off of cooldown and there's a free enemy near you, then just take the kill anyways. Avoid getting hit as always, but you'll see me taking around 4,000 damage, but it was still okay. For Destroy the Transport Helicopters, I initially thought that you needed to kill a bunch of enemies to offset the length of the mission, so I did that alongside taking the combat log. Turns out, all you really have to do here is focus on the objective only. Enemy engagement is not recommended, and you just have to keep your assault boost aimed at the objective. Once it's dead, immediately move on to the next one. Do this as fast as possible and you'll get the S. Destroy the Tester AC seems to only require that you destroy the Tester AC in a short amount of time with the least amount of damage taken. For this, I recommend any build to have a consistent ACS buildup. This was easy to do with melee weapons, but looking back on it, I should have brought the pile bunker. In Attack the Dam Complex, you might be pressured to think it's a strict mission, but you'd actually end up losing if you went in too fast in the start. The game puts a barrier if you don't kill all of the MTs guarding the generators, so make sure they're all gone in your first pass so that you don't have to spend time backtracking. After the first area, there are no longer any barriers, meaning you can just rush the generators until you get to Index Dunham. Actually, I'm not sure if killing this guy secures the S rank, but at least we can prove that killing him doesn't slow you down enough to take it away. Having a good assault boost is good here because you don't really need to dodge. Destroy the Mechanized Mining Ship is another intimidating mission that was very straightforward because the only real requirement is knowing where to go without any backtracking. The path that I use once the ship is down is to go to the generator on the bottom, and then left, then right, then on top, which opens up the eye for an easier beating. Familiarity with the playing field is the only thing that you need, so you should be replaying this mission to plan out your route. Our first boss encounter will be in Operation Wallclimber, but before that, you have to get past its sniper range without taking damage. To do that, I suggest that you stick to these mountains on the left, and when you run out of area, you assault boost downwards and to the left of the minor wall. The Tetrapod MT is just a basic dude, so make sure you aren't too close because you need to be able to dodge the cluster bazooka and the sword. I think this encounter gets shortened by the pile bunker. This boss is only really a problem for melee challenges, because this is where FromSoft uses AI that runs away on a velocity equivalent to your movement speed squared. For normal builds, I highly recommend vertical missiles, but for this challenge, we have no choice but to chase it down. Retrieve the combat logs is entirely based on if you know where the combat logs are. It's not that difficult, and you can just strip off the big guns and slap on a high assault boost for this one. The first and second one are only a little bit away from the starting point. Then take the exit on the right into the snow, and you'll find the third one by the path. Continue down the path, and you'll find the fourth and the fifth in Rex. After you get those, jump down into the big canyon and take the sixth. You don't really have to beat little Z, but you can do it for fun like I did. To get the last one, fly up this massive machine and go in between its legs. After that, you're done. The next mission is Attack the Watchpoint, because the one before it was a little too difficult. In the first part of the mission, before you take down the turrets, stay gliding in the water and simply pop up next to the turrets to take them down. And then you can focus on the MTs, which are all pretty easy to dodge. In the next segment, immediately assault boost to the right turret and you can kill it before it wakes up completely. Then hide until after the next turret fires, after which you can kill it quickly. Now, Sulla is a bit of a weird case. You want to stay close range with him because he barely dodges your kicks and struggles to dodge melee. But at the same time, he has a pulse weapon and an explosive back weapon that are best at that range. I would say the risk is worth the reward here, because even dodging only half of them is good enough if you kill him fast. Volteus comes next and is a lot easier than I expected. The fight is a skill test like always, but I have some tips. If you're carrying a heavy weapon you're saving for the down phase, don't be afraid to use it at the start of the combo against a shield. Trust me, it will have cooled or reloaded by the time the shield is down. You should prioritize keeping it as down as possible rather than doing more damage during the down phase. Don't be afraid to pull out your arsenal during the shield phase. Just make sure that when it does get downed, kick it to prolong the downtime. Remember, if it's out of commission, it can't kill you. Funnily enough, Chapter 2 only has one mission that belongs in the easy tier. It's the one with the boss in Ocean Crossing. It's really quite simple. Once you ascend the elevator, immediately assault boost and dive into this room with the mechanisms. Follow it through to the exit, and once you're there, go under the platform by the door. This is how you'll get under the bridge. Here you can spam your kicks because it saves your energy. And once you reach the end, you do a full assault boost to the opposite underside of the bridge. Then assault boost up to the platform again, and then another one straight into the boss room. Now for the Sea Spider, you really just need to keep a consistent flow of ACS damage. Stay close to the boss and keep going round and around and it will struggle to hit you. I brought the chainsaw and the moonlight here, but I feel like the pulse blade or the pile bunker would be better than the moonlight. For the second phase, you want to just get it killed fast before it does the spinning scissor attack. And to achieve that, I repeatedly punched and kicked the boss while the moonlight was on cooldown. This is to make sure that it reaches ACS overload as fast as possible. Chapter 3 starts with Steal the Survey Data. I initially struggled with this because I had trouble with the LCs, but then I found that the Pulse Blade and the Pile Bunker are perfect for it. You can actually completely ignore the first part of the mission, just go for the beacons by order of what's the nearest, and then race to the next objective. It's better to avoid this tetrapod for lesser repair cost, but once the PCA does the laser drive-by, fly up to this building and then wait for the LCs to initiate Titanfall. Kill both of them quickly and then you're free to deal with the bigger LC. This guy goes down with one kick, followed by 2 pulse slashes and a Pile Bunker once it's down. And once you're done with him, take the MTs at the bottom and wait for the ship behind this building so that you can avoid the damage. You don't have to wait for it to fully arrive since it becomes a physical NPC quite early. Just assault boost, take down the core, and fly back to the safe zone. To eliminate V.VII, start the mission by assault boosting up and to the left. When you reach the upper limit, aim down a little bit but keep going. You'll likely run out of gas before reaching the wall, so go down and destroy the camera MT. When energy is back, keep going up the wall. Don't assault boost and take your time assassinating the camera MTs. At the end of the wall, take a hard right straight to the objective. And after reaching that, you can just immediately assault boost back up to the wall. When you get to Swinburne, the game actually gives you a chance to set up, so I suggest you take this chance to do a charged Pile Bunker. This is a standard AC fight as he doesn't have any tricks. Hear him out when he begs for mercy and accept it, because if you hit him with a heavy attack after you accept the offer, it's a one-shot. Tunnel Sabotage is a mission made exactly for the Bursal boosters. Just slap it on and take off all your weapons except for the Pile Bunker. You can fly straight to the objective and kill it. But do me a favor and kick this one guy in particular. After taking out the generator, you can just fly back out while still ignoring everything. Survey the Uninhabited Floating City is also played with the Bursal boosters, but more importantly, a YouTube video. You'll see that I paused the game multiple times midway through to see where to go next, and you should do the same. There isn't a point in trying to figure it out on your own, and there's no penalty to pausing the game. I think you do have to kill the ambush LCs though. Once the helicopter arrives, take down the sniper LCs first and you'll have an easier time rushing the helicopter. This is only a hard fight because of the stupid terrain, but even still, you have to keep the pressure on the helicopter and don't let up. Heavy missile launch support seemed like a great undertaking at first because of the distribution of enemies in different areas that I may not reach in time. This is where I learned that sometimes the solution is just to left-right uppercut. I believe that the requirements for this S rank is that all 3 missiles are alive, aside from the least amount of self-damage. Destroy the Special Forces craft sees the return of the chainsaw. The Cataphract has an ACS bar that's just enough for 2 Moonlight Strikes and 1 punch, while also having a decent stagger window and a hitbox for the chainsaw to be effective. For other builds, I highly recommend bazookas for this boss. Makes it so much easier. Attack the Old Spaceport is a solid member of those missions that are impossible to figure out. I still don't know what got me to S rank, but I will share my theories. First, I think killing the LCs around the map is pretty important. There's one straight ahead of the starting point, and another one near the ship on the right side. But when it comes to the ships, I think there is a best path. In relative positioning, you go for the one underground, then the 3 to the left of that, and turn around for the ship on the right. I don't know if this makes a difference, but that's just armored core. I used the butt blade for this one because it's very good for dealing with LCs and the boss of this level. The laser lance is also very good for the guy with the shield, as it is effective in stopping his attacks. When the ice worm comes, I believe there's a little ledge somewhere that you can chill on, but I can't find it, so I just repeatedly kicked upwards to stay in the air with little fuel consumption. Eliminate Honest Brute was a weird mission for me, because it is super easy, but for some reason I needed 3 whole attempts. But anyways, all you really have to do is skip the entire mission and, well, eliminate Honest Brute. He'll just be flying around and spamming the flamethrower, so you'll have a lot of good chances with assault rifles and other well-tracking weapons. For me, the laser lance did the work. The Raven fight in Defend the Old Spaceport is a very forgiving fight that you can simply bang your head at. My only complaint about it is the general problem where ACS overload seems to be capped, where enemies can just dash away or heal after 2 picoseconds of being downed. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like they only do this if you have a Pile Bunker equipped. I got lucky here though because he got stuck under some debris, but it's an easy S rank either way. Historic Data Recovery is kind of a baller mission. I've seen some people say that they just skipped everything and still got the S. My tip is to put the Bretzel on and just head straight to the objective markers. It might also be better to use melee weapons so that you don't spend money on ammunition. We'll skip over the Ice Worm mission, as I have a lot to say about it later. Fortunately for me, all 3 depths expeditions were very easy. So let's go over Underground Exploration Depth 1. For this mission, it's important to note that letting go of your movement keys makes you fall faster. The general gist of this mission is to activate the elevator and fall until the partition closes. Kill the enemies, head over to the unlock, and then fall again, but you stick close to these side platforms so that you can hide when Nepenthes does the Nepenthes thing. Underground Exploration Depths 2 is a very long stretch of skill issue. While I'd still classify the individual challenges as easy, having everything in one level makes the mission a pain in the ass to S rank. However, the level is pretty forgiving, and even with many mistakes, I still got it. So here are my tips. These LCs in the beginning are easier dealt with after they lunge at you with the pulse blade. You can dash away once and do any attack while they're about to swing the blade, but the two in this particular hallway are better ambushed. Iguazu can prove to be hard for some builds, but that does not include mine, as one kick and two moonlight shots are enough to stagger him. He struggles if you're close, so try a melee or a bazooka so you can quickly remind Iguazu that he is not him. The rest of the level after him can just be assault boosted through, so take some time to learn it properly. I struggled with the Enforcer for a while, but unfortunately, it really is just down to practice with the moveset that you're comfortable with. If you do have access to every weapon, then I'm certain it's easy to keep it staggered with guns, but in my case, it was all about turning up the rhythm and just paying attention. The Knoth Trier legs are amazing here because it's just about enough to dodge a lot of its attacks. It's important to note that half of its attacks are dodged by jumping or being mid-air, while others are dodged by dashing from the ground. Spend some time with the checkpoint before you attempt the mission in full because this boss is all practice and no tricks. Underground Exploration Depth 3 difficulty is all down to the LC fights in the middle of the mission. This guy's FCS is pretty crazy, and for that I could only recommend a damage off, but at least it isn't that demanding as my Moonlight and Laser Lance seem to be enough even though they aren't as effective for faster enemies. It's also easier to visualize your progress with a timer that the game gives you. Ambush the Vespers is undoubtedly better to play with those plasma cannons that can be charged up. I have a feeling that you can one-shot one of those guys with just that. Unfortunately for me, the ambush isn't possible. The Pulp Bunker is always a great choice for finishing AC fights quickly, but these guys are just too fast for that. So I had to go back to the Laser Lance and Moonlight combo. Make sure you kill Pater first, as heartbreaking as it may be, because he's the weaker one, and you'd want Olmayan to be alive while fighting Hawkins, because he can get quite annoying. In Survey the Unknown Territory, you can just dash straight to the mealworms and avoid getting blown up because this mission is only really about getting dominated by Rusty. I'm not too sure what qualifies for S rank considering how much damage I took in the fight, so I guess you should be less nervous about this one. If you are struggling, I suggest taking the Moonlight with the Laser Lance and exactly one shotgun or rifle. It should do the trick. Second to the last mission in easy tier is Escape, which is kind of a funny one because the jailbreak frame does not have any melee weapons. So my immediate thought to this was to deplete my ammo in my right hand so that my AC would shed it and I can use the fist instead. But due to the amount of time this took, I ended up getting a C rank. But then I thought, do I really need to fight anyone in this mission? So I went in again, but this time I just raced to the end without using my gun. Eventually, I was right, and Carla does come regardless of if you fight the MTs or not, but you can still help her out by dashing into the MTs. This method was still deserving of an S rank, so it works. The final mission in Easy Tier is also coincidentally the hardest Easy Tier mission. Take the Uninhabited Floating City is a mission that I still can't explain how I beat. The first phase is not that complicated, just make sure you hit your shots and have a good assault boost. Wetzel is recommended here. But it's the second part that hurts the most as the game throws you sniper LCs that just shred the tower. This is really bad when you consider that at the halfway point, the game throws a bunch of hard-to-hit suicide drones, and the only way I see you can actually eliminate them completely is to have that one expansion that just blows up. But otherwise, they will completely tear down your shield. Just to make it worse, immediately after that, they throw all the MTs alongside an LC so that you get a natural timer to beat the LC before the MTs get enraged to fire. This mission hurts. In the difficult tier, we will find missions that require several repeats, hours of practice, a drastic change in playstyle, or a drastic improvement in skill. There are a total of 7 missions, and we'll go over them by order of difficulty. The lowest rank in the difficult tier means that this mission alone is already harder than all of the 25 missions that came before this point. But what could possibly be so difficult as to earn this title? Well, that would be none other than the third mission of the entire game, Grid 135 Cleanup. This mission is the tamest example of the darkest hours of a melee build. And yes, there are more. When a mission objective is to wipe out groups of enemies, you start to get a little sweaty when you're doing a melee-only challenge. But when the mission requires you to do that objective in a short amount of time, that's when doing a successful backflip of a moving vehicle starts to seem like an easier task. I fucking hate these missions because I can put on the cock pistols and the jailbreak frame and still have an easier time getting an S rank. I tried to solve this problem by trying different weapons with lower cooldown periods and higher AoE effectiveness before arriving back at my roots in the streets of Philippines. I can't quite give a tutorial for this one because when I say that all you need is 2 pistols and a booster, I mean it. This mission is only a pain because I'm restricted to melee weapons. Up next on the chopping block of my mental health is Investigate BAWS Arsenal number 2. I believe the difficulty is mostly in part of the nature of the challenge. The first part took some getting used to engaging the LCs before they ran away, but the second part is proof of why this challenge is impossible without the Moonlight. I spent a lot of time replaying and practicing this one, and while a lot of my attempts were foiled by these fucking disappearing LCs, I still put some work into refining the first part of the mission. I feel like this would be significantly easier with any ranged weapon with a reasonable time to kill. The most important trait in this mission is getting the enemy staggered or dead before they get away. So fast-firing rifles, bazookas, or even certain melee weapons will do the job if you're insane enough. Eliminate Cinder Carla belongs solidly in the difficult tier simply because of how many fucking explosions there are. Like bro, who cooked this? I just want to play the game. I spent roughly an hour practicing and retrying and changing things up, and eventually I wound up using the pile bunker and the moonlight to achieve AC instant killing, while also adopting the 420 wheelchair because I kept on running out of fuel just dodging the 15 Gorillion missiles. It's also quite efficient for this build because of how light I am. Carla isn't actually that bad, especially with the pile bunker politely distancing her augments from her spine, but Chatty is just a straight up bullshit matchup for melee weapons. I am not one to hate on builds, but Chatty taught me that sometimes we do need to kill people. If you are going to do this, don't be afraid to take damage, as the only respite is that this level is very forgiving. As you can see in my winning attempt, I am left with 0 repair kits, so as long as you can beat this too, it's going to be all set, even if you take a lot of damage. The next big hurdle in our journey is Walter White in Bring Down the Xylem. This took me almost 2 hours to beat. You can tell I really had fun by how fast I reset an attempt. I switched between the butt to the pile bunker to whatever, then back to the moonlight and laser lance combo. That's because this boss is made up of turbo shit, and the speed of his quick boost is scaled entirely off of your attacks. An unfortunate trick that FromSoft should really stop using before I scale my movement speed according to the speed by which the developers run away from mine. This is one of those levels where the only solution is practice. Since the only objective is to kill Walter, that's the only thing you really have to learn. Unfortunately, I still don't know how I beat this guy, but fortunately for all of us, the mission is pretty forgiving, so just let loose. Isn't it kind of funny that the first mission of Chapter 2 is harder than one of the final bosses? Yep, it's because in Infiltrate Grid 086, we encounter a gimmick fight, which is fun sometimes, but is agonizing in just about every challenge run ever. Call this shit bizarre because the Smart Cleaner has no weaknesses. It's almost impossible to hit the weak points with melee weapons, and I completely gave up on this mission for a while, until I did the Destroy the Drive Block mission with the second Smart Cleaner, where I actually had to learn how to fight this dude, because there is no way I'm losing 2 whole missions. This is where I learned that the best tools for this job are the butt and the pile bunker, and while there isn't a way to hit the Smart Cleaner's weakness, sometimes all you need is sheer fucking force. Reach the Coral Convergence earns a unique spot in the difficult tier because it would actually be impossible if not for a very specific build. It was from this video by Oif where I learned some important details. First, a charged pile bunker is enough to stagger cell 240. Second, the stun baton can prolong its overloaded state. And finally, that there are some openings that are just perfect enough for a charged pile bunker if your positioning is correct. If you put those 3 things together, you can completely skip the first phase like this. While in the second phase, if you learn the patterns and the timing, you can play a little waiting game and be able to overload cell 240, leading to a quick kill. It takes a lot of practice, and that's why I put it as the second hardest mission. But nothing quite measures up to Destroy the Drive Block, the hardest mission to S-rank with only melee weapons, featuring 2 hard bosses and a level slapped on top of it. This mission alone took 2.5 hours to master, but honestly, I don't hate this one. I feel like the boss was definitely a lot fairer than all the other ones, while still being incredibly difficult. But eventually, I did learn to dodge the combos and slither in just the right time to put in an extra attack. For this one, I used the butt and the pile bunker. These 2 are like my bread and butter, the cock and the balls. Oh yeah, and the boss is the torture. My tips for this mission is to replay the first part multiple times so you can burn the best path into muscle memory. It's a standard objective hunt, and you can just ignore the rest. It's good to get this practice out of the way first because depending on your challenge run, you may end up spending hours on Snail. At the end of it all, it was a great experience to S-rank this mission. It's now time for the impossible tier. These are missions that I've highlighted not because they are incredibly bullshit or have impossible gimmicks or impossible standards. Well, it is kind of that, but mostly because I want you to do them. This part of the video is a call for help as to see if it is technically possible for any living and breathing human to S-rank these 4 missions. So let's see which one they are. Where do I even begin with this one? Look, FromSoft, I know you guys are a company that probably won't take shit from an individual, but can we please stop making gimmick fights? Or at least not make them mandatory. A lot of Armored Core 6 bosses have improved my opinion over them over time, some I even love, but Destroy the Iceworm is the only one that I still find irredeemably unfun, even with the Sun Needle. And it's not just me, ask Genshin players if they like fighting Satek Weednut. So I am aware that you can fight the worm without the Stun Needle, but here's what I learned throughout my attempts. First of all, you cannot melee this thing while it's moving. It just straight up kills you. Second, even the Moonlight struggles to have any safe openings against it. And with all of that into account, good luck in the second phase where the fight gets significantly harder. I did S-rank the mission while only using the Stun Needle for the shield, and that's why I put this as the least impossible mission, because in some senses it is possible, just not entirely counted. But yeah, I am excited to see what insane shit someone will have to discover to beat this one. Eliminate the Dozer faction is the pinnacle of the type of missions that are perfect for even pistols to S rank, but are just straight up impossible for melee only. There is no melee weapon that is capable of keeping up with the amount of enemies you're dealing with, so you're forced to pull out them fists. But even then, the time you're offered to S rank the mission and the sheer amount of damage you'll take just makes this completely undoable for melee builds.
And oh my lord, fuck this mission sideways and put it on a stick. Seriously, I am so fucking annoyed.
Those who have attempted to S-rank this mission will know that this shit is fucking impossible. Attack the Refueling base is the prime example of why S-rank objectives should be a thing. Like maybe informing the player about the requirements may actually help them play the game? No one likes this mission. It's batshit insane. I'm going to play the most flawless attempts on the Omoe boss, and while you're watching, you need to keep in mind that this only got an A rank. Giving you any sort of tutorial on how to do this mission has a 50% chance of being misinformation just by virtue of how no one has any actual idea what counts as an S rank for this shit. Fuck this mission. Who would have thought that the very first mission of the game would be the most impossible? Well, me actually. I mean, what did you expect? Give me a shitty, barely optimized mech, only one melee weapon, and a boss that's completely airborne and consistently tries to get as far away as possible from you. Not to mention the fucking invisible walls. Thank you, FromSoft. I'm really having fun. The rest of this mission is very doable, don't get me wrong. You just have to fly straight to the objectives and avoid damage. The problem is that the starting AC is made specifically weak against this boss. It doesn't get worse than this. Even after hours and hours of practice and repeating the same piece of shit fight over and over again, I could only achieve an A rank. So there it is. 32 over 36 missions in Armored Core 6, S ranked with only melee weapons. If you want to see more S rank challenges like this, like maybe S ranking all of the endings missions with only melee, oh lord that sounds agonizing, then please subscribe to catch that one. Oh, and let me know. Please don't. I kinda want to stay sane. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.